All right, so let's break it down, man. Let's talk about it. Lifeline. So Lifeline, man. There was a very it was a glaring moment in my life back in 2018 that inspired this record. I had an episode in 2018. I think you know that Dark Night of the Soul I was telling you guys about from the Somber record. Yeah, that episode inspired Lifeline because man, I don't know if I can talk and sit down because these bugs are in my way. But that episode inspired Lifeline, where I felt the need to speak on it, right? So for me, like most of us, man, I was born in the gutter. I'm from the gutter. When I say gutter, I mean like I'm from the worst of the worst, man. My upbringing was tough, man. It was tough. So for one, I was raised as a stepchild. You know what I mean? I'm a stepchild. I was uprooted from my mother's house when I was, I think, if I can recall, 6 years old. My parents had divorced and separated, and my father remarried. So I was uprooted, and I lived with my stepmoms until I was about 17. From 17 on, I was on my own. I've been on my own since the age of 17 years old. But Lifeline. So, you know, growing up as a stepchild, man, I think it's tough, and I don't wish that on anybody to grow up as a stepchild. Your mother's love is sacred, just like God's unyielding love is sacred. I think one's mother's love is sacred. So for a child to grow up with their mother's love, I think is absolutely necessary. You know what I mean? And no matter what may arise, I think it's absolutely necessary for your child to grow up with their mother's love. I don't think it's not unless the mother is, of course, detrimental for that child. Then, of course, you got to uproot the child. But I think growing up with your mother's love, that equips you for life early on and later on. You know what I mean? Because there are certain things you grow up with, and certain things that are established within you that can easily translate to later on in your life. You know what I mean? But the kids that grow up without their mother's love, I believe that therapy is needed, right? Because you gotta go back and unpack. You know what I mean? So Lifeline for me was a heavy record because, you know, I don't feel like I was dealt a good hand. If you ask me, I think if I would have grew up in a certain environment, I think I'd have been an engineer today. Because I was so bright. I was such a smart, intelligent, and bright kid. I stood out. Again, I'm from Freetown, Sierra Leone. So when I was younger, I was top 3 in my class every year, every term, every year. And I barely tried. I never studied, and things was just natural for me. You know what I mean? So I think if I would have grew up in a structured environment, that I believe my mother would have created for me, I think I would have been an engineer today. I don't know what type of engineer, but I would have been an engineer today. So Lifeline is just me, just going back to those times in my life where, there once was a boy, felt it don't belong. He didn't know who he was in this cold world. Mom and daddy separated when he was a boy, so he had to go along. He had to make it. So during those times, man, as a kid coming up, you have people around you, but sometimes I felt so alone. I felt alone, even though I had people and family around me. I just felt alone because, sometimes I didn't feel like I belonged where I was, and I don't feel like my caregivers at that time did enough for me to reach my highest potential. So I was jaded for a while. I was jaded, but I had to go to therapy and I had to heal myself. You know what I mean? So that was the first verse. That's just me explaining what that's what the first verse is about. Me, you know. When you put silver in hot heat, it purifies it, right? All the things that doesn't belong gets burnt out, and then it purifies it. When you look at the silver and you can see your own reflection, that's how you know you are ready. You know what I mean? So Lifeline, again, was a very heavy record for me, but it was just me speaking my truth unapologetically, and I felt absolutely compelled to. You know what I mean? And the record is what, 2 minutes, less than 3 minutes long. You know what I mean? But it was absolutely necessary. You know what I mean? And it was a heavy record, but I felt so much better after recording it and after releasing it. You know what I mean? So it was therapy in a sense. So, growing up as a stepchild, man, wasn't the best of experiences for me. I remember before I was uprooted from my mother, I was you could say I was this vibrant kid. I was vibrant. When I walked, I was very vibrant. And once I was uprooted, I became almost a shell of my former self, where it's like I became introverted overnight. You know what I mean? But I thank God. I thank God for everything. I thank God because I feel, looking back now, I feel like everything happened for a reason. You know what I mean? And of course, my story is far from over. And I thank God for purifying me. I feel like a bamboo tree. I feel like a bamboo tree. I don't feel like I've even touched the surface yet. Personally, for me, I think there's so much ahead. I got that strong feeling that there's so much ahead, and we just got to continue working. Because it was like a therapy session for me. Well-needed therapy session. And that was the motivation, man. That was the inspiration behind it. So we are at track number 13. And we got 2 more to go, man. 2 more to go, and we are at the end of the tunnel, breaking down these records. And shout out to you, man. Shout out to you for the support. And if you haven't copped a copy of the album yet, man, the link is in my bio. $20 or more. We appreciate you. Love.
Lifeline, lifetime, my lifeline, yeah, lifetime.